Hi everyone, welcome back. We're continuing our series on jobs for nomads. Today we're going to look at the third job out of 10. We're going to look at a total of 10 jobs. This is the third. This is part of the opening trilogy, which consists of 3 jobs worked sequentially and can make you an awful lot of money in 6 months work. The first was campground hosting, which runs from mid-May to mid-September roughly. It can vary a lot. The other is the beet harvest, which is usually 3 to 4 weeks, maybe a little more, but maybe a little less, very weather dependent. And that's in around October, late September, October. And finally, the Amazon.com, which is what we're looking at today, working for Amazon.com at their distribution centers. And the reason you want this trilogy is because you can come out with a lot of money, cash in hand. After traveling and living expenses, it would be entirely realistic for a single person to have $8,000 cash, a couple $16,000. And in a good year, things go just right, lots of overtime, lots of good weather. It wouldn't be unrealistic to come with $10,000 for a single person to $20,000 for a couple, if everything goes well and after you do it for a while. Every time you go back and do it, you make more. You get more perks. You stay longer, you come earlier, you stay longer, on and on. 20 grand for a couple would not be unrealistic, cash in pocket. So today we're talking about the third of that trilogy, and then later we're going to talk about 7 other jobs. So come back to the series. This series is in a playlist. Learn about, go to the YouTube channel, click on playlists, and you'll see a lot of playlists. This is all going to be on one playlist. So let's talk about the Amazon.com job. First, you're going to be working at a distribution center at the holidays. It usually will start, if you want just that job, you can usually start sometime in September, if not October, certainly in November, and then you'll be working mandatory overtime in December. So it's basically around the holiday season when their busyness increases so much, they have to hire outside people. They have what they call a Camperforce. That's their name. If you do a Google search on it, do a Google search on employment, Amazon, Camperforce. A lot of blogs have talked about it. I've talked about it extensively on my blog. Interstellar Orchard. Go to Interstellar Orchard. She's talked about this a lot. She's done it, I believe, for 4 years in a row. And so she's an expert at it. And so they hire through the Camperforce for this short season. When they're at their peak, their normal staff can't handle the increase. They don't want to hire more full-time people, so they hire part-timers. They call it Camperforce because you're given a free campsite. You will, whatever your RV or van, I've not had anyone had a problem with getting a van, putting a van in one of the campgrounds they offer. So they offer you a free campsite, full hookups for the entire time. That's a good thing. A lot of them are in cold areas. You will want the hookups, even if you're in a van. What I've known people to do is to buy a portable heater, plug it in to get an extension cord, heavy-duty extension cord, heat their van with the heater. I also knew one person didn't want to bother with the heater. They got an electric blanket, 110 electric blanket, and when they were in the van, they just were cuddled up in their electric blanket and they wore their hat, and they were very happy with that. It was a pretty cheap solution. So you can stay warm, because that's one of the reasons you will want hookups. Again, like I said, you're giving a free campsite, sometimes far away, sometimes close, just luck. The earlier you apply and get the job, the closer you will be assigned a campsite to. All the Camperforce jobs are now in Dallas or on the East Coast. There are 2 or 3 of them in Tennessee and Kentucky. Just do the Google search, employment, Amazon, Camperforce, and you'll find the information. They are very good about hiring and helping you through the hiring process. There will be one person assigned to you, and you will speak to that person by email and by phone occasionally. Constantly, every question they will answer and get you through the hiring process. They're very, very good at that. Then your next question is going to be, can I physically do this job? And the answer is probably. Best I can do. A lot of older people do this. I know many people in their 60s and 70s personally who have done it. I know a lot of younger people who have done it. And so, yes, you probably can do this. It's 10 hours a day, every day, with mandatory overtime. And so you're going to be on your feet a lot. That's your hardest part of this job, is simply being on your feet so much. And the other really difficult part of the job is everything you do will involves a handheld computer that is on your wrist. And so I have known numerous people who came away with wrist problems from the constant accessing the handheld computer, the scanner on their wrist. It's gotten smaller and better, but it's still there. So wrist problems are pretty common, as are knee and back problems. You're up and down, bottom shelf, top shelf, lifting. One problem you're going to hear about is Amazon is terrible to their employees. They're a really bad employer. And you can make that argument for their full-time employees. That is not in the least bit true of their Camperforce. They need the Camperforce. They treat the Camperforce well. They treat you well. You might have an occasional bad boss. I've talked to people who had bad bosses, and their boss was disorganized and wasn't a good teacher and wasn't a good leader, and that does happen. For the most part, the company's attitude towards the Camperforce is very positive. They need you more than you need them, and so they treat you well. They want you to come back the next year. They want you to have the best possible experience. They know it's a hard job. You're on your feet 12 hours a day, but they treat you as well as they can. They're extremely safety conscious. They order you not to lift heavy items. Get someone to help you. Lift heavy items with groups. They're very careful, very, very safety conscious. They don't want you to have an accident. They don't want you to be injured. Costs them money. And so in most ways, they treat you well because they want you to come back. Come to the RTR in January, go down there, start the process, then you'll be one of the very first, except for returning people who always get priority. The pay is anywhere from like high 10s, basically 11 to 13 an hour, I believe. It goes up every time you return, you get more. And then it's 10-hour days, 4 days a week with mandatory overtime. So you may have mandatory overtime of 12-hour days. I've talked to a lot of people and I don't remember all the details, I'm sorry. You can find blogs on all of this where they describe it all. And so $11 to $13 an hour, plus of course mandatory overtime, anything over 10. It's 4 10s, those 10-hour days are not overtime. Anything over those 10s, the 6th day, the 7th day, and you will be given the option to work the 6th and 7th day, probably starting in maybe November, certainly in December. I don't believe they require that, that's too much. They do require 4 12s, I believe. I could be wrong, but that's my understanding. And then the 6th day and 7th day are always optional. And if you're young and healthy and can do it, boy, think of all the money you're making. You're making 13 an hour at time and a half for 12-hour days. Money pours in. You can easily walk away from the job from $4,000 cash to $10,000 cash for a single person, double that for a couple. It's good money for a very short period of time. They run a day shift and a night shift. They will ask you which you prefer, but you will be assigned one. If you're one of the very earliest people and a returning person, you will probably be giving a choice. But if you're later on and new, you'll probably just be assigned. So you're not guaranteed day or night shift. There are 3 jobs, basically 3 jobs at Amazon. Receiving, truck comes in full of stuff, you unload it. Stowing takes it and then you stack it. And then stowing breaks that down, takes it all over the warehouse and puts it into bins, and then uses the computer and checks it into the bin so that the computer knows where this item is. They won't all be the same item. You just stuff anything in there as full as you can get it. And then when someone orders it, then a picker goes around to that bin and and the computer knows where it is because you've checked it in on your computer in your hand. And the computer says, go to bin, aisle, row, bin, and the picker goes and picks it and gets it to the receiving packing area and sends it out. That's the basic flow. That's just really a rough overview. I've heard people say they liked one job better than the other, and again, go to Becky. She will describe all the jobs in detail. She's done them all, and she will tell you which she liked better, and she's really the one. Becky at Interstellar Orchard is the one you want to go see about this. So that's the 3 jobs. It's all walking. It's on your feet and walking. Huge warehouse all the time, up and down, and it's physically demanding. No one's going to kid you about that. This is a hard job. If you have a disability, it's probably not for you in any way. Most people get used to it. They are they are watching your performance. Everything's on the computer, isn't it? And so when you check something in, they know exactly how many items you've put in a bin or taken out of a bin over the day. So they know your performance exactly. They will, if your performance is slow, they will come to you and say, is there any way you can pick this up, the speed up? Let me offer you some suggestions. They will be helpful, they will be encouraging, they won't scold you, they won't beat you, they probably will not fire you. I don't think I've ever heard of a person fired for it. They do want you to work faster and harder, but they're very reasonable about it. Even if you're a mediocre worker, they want you to come back the next year because you're trained. So my experience has been that it's, and the bigger thing is your crew. You will be assigned a supervisor in your crew. How is the crew doing? If the crew is working up to normal, that's expected. There will be some weak links, some strong links, some young, some old, some fast, some slow. If the crew is working up and they're rewarded, there are incentives for speed. The crew is rewarded, and you're rewarded for being faster. There are numerous little rewards, and often it is a discount, I believe. So I think I'm going to just let go at that. I think I've covered everything I want to cover about Amazon, and I think that's a good overview. Again, you can get the job by going to doing a Google search on Amazon, Camperforce employment, and you might have to search around a little bit on what shows up, but you'll almost certainly find it. If you come to the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, which is held every January, mid-January, I time it around the Big Tent RV show, and Amazon has had a booth every year. Every year I've been there for 10 years. You can actually get information. You can start the employment process right then. You can fill out a form, hand it to them, and you're in the process. Someone will contact you. One person will be assigned to you, and an HR person, and will guide you through the whole process right to getting the job. The process is fairly long involved. They want a lot of information from you just before, immediately before. You will be given a drug test. You will have to take a piss test, and there will be a background check, and they want a lot of documents proving, this is the federal government wanting your legalized citizenship. Oddly, one they often ask for, I think always, maybe, I don't know, is they want to see your high school graduation certificate. Very odd. That's one of the few employers I've heard of requiring that. They will guide you through all of it. There was one person that will be assigned you. You can email her. She will answer you. You will not be alone in this process. They do a real good job with it. They want a lot. They help you. So come to the RTR and you can get all these jobs. There are booths for all the jobs I've described. The big three, they're at the RTR. Many of them. I've seen up to 10 different booths for employment at the RTR. Okay, so that's how you get the job, what the job is. And that's the trilogy. On our next video, we'll start talking about other jobs, working in national parks. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about working in a tourist town, all kinds of jobs. We'll talk about being a poker dealer. There are an amazing number of jobs for nomads, and we'll talk about all those. In the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this, and if you have, I hope you will like this on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, and share it through your social media with your friends. We want people to follow their dreams. We want to instill hope in a better life, that life doesn't have to be a drudgery and monotony and barely surviving. Your life can be really, really good. And working is part of it. It always is going to be, but your life can be really, really good, and we're going to show you how. So until next time, follow your dreams. Never give up on your dreams. We'll talk to you later.